Hey guys, we're Blake and Rachel, otherwise known as This Is Nomadic. We're commercial filmmakers and full-time travelers in our truck camper. We're adventure seekers in our mini jet boat and on our dirt bikes. We're almost 4 years into our nomad journey, but you're watching our first ever video series. Season 1, Moto Roaming, is a 12-part adventure series that will take you along on our summer adventures through Idaho and fall in Colorado. And we hope that it will inspire you to live your passion. In the month of June, work brought us out to the high desert of Southern California. After the work was completed, with temperatures in the 90s, we started driving north for the summer in search of cooler weather. We wanted to check out some places in Northern California on our way to Oregon and Idaho, where we would be spending the rest of the summer. Our first stop along this journey was Crowley Lake, a reservoir right off the 395 with some really interesting shoreline to see. We were itching to get our boat in the water, having just towed it all the way from Colorado, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity to go for a spin. The unique part about Crowley Lake, and also the attraction everyone goes there to see, is these stone columns. These columns were created from melting snow seeping into volcanic ash from the eruption in the Long Valley caldera 760,000 years ago, and then being exposed from the waves of the reservoir. You can only see them by boat, or paddling across the main channel of the lake, or by a four-wheel drive jeep road, and some parts of the year they're completely covered in water. We spent a few hours motoring around the lake, enjoying the rest of the unique shoreline, and just enjoying our first stop on our Northern California road trip with this beautiful backdrop. We found a nearby camp spot known for its natural hot springs. After setting up camp, we went to check out the springs, and they were not what we expected.
Oh, it's cold.
And unfortunately, all of the hot springs were either full or cold, so we took a walk to the hot creek instead. This is the Hot Creek Geological Site, with several hot geysers like you'd find in Yellowstone. People used to swim in the hot creek, but now the geysers are all fenced off because so many people died from the rapidly fluctuating temperatures. Next stop, Lake Tahoe. It was our first time at this alpine Caribbean lake, and there is so much to see. What better way to see the lake than by driving the entire 72-mile circumference? We drove clockwise around the lake, stopping for hikes and scenic overlooks. We hiked down to some of the secret coves that made us feel like we were in the Caribbean, and hiked around the neighboring Fallen Leaf Lake. It was still early season for being at over 6,000 feet. It was perfect for a few hikes, but not quite warm enough for swimming. And with water this clear, you know we had to get our pack rafts out. We floated down the Truckee River and paddled in one of the coves on the east side of Lake Tahoe. Blake came up with the idea of taking the boat around the entire circumference of the lake and camping off of the boat for one night in Emerald Bay. There's a very thorough inspection process in order to launch a boat on Lake Tahoe in order to protect these pristine waters from any invasive species. It was cold and windy the morning of our launch, so we bundled up and braced for the spray of the alpine water on our faces. We reserved a spot in Emerald Bay State Park where they have boat-in campsites. You can park your boat at the bottom of Fannet Island and hike up to the ruins of a small tea house built in the 1920s. From our camp, we also did a short hike to Eagle Falls.
All right, we're all buoyed up. Gonna get ready to take the little dinghy back to shore. Camping out right up there. Check it out. Super rad.
After a peaceful night, we continued around the lake, sticking to the shorelines to avoid the chop from the wind. We wanted to explore all of the hidden coves that we'd previously seen from the road. Blake even braved the frigid temps and jumped in. We continued further north into the Lakes Basin, and our next activity soon became one of my all-time favorite hikes. We climbed 1,500 feet to a historic fire tower with one of the best views in the Sierras. And you can't be scared of heights to complete this hike. These stairs were built in 1964, but I promise you, they were sturdy. The views above 8,500 feet were well worth the climb. The land became more volcanic, indicating we were nearing our next destination, Lassen Volcanic National Park. We feel lucky to have been able to visit when we did, because a month later, the Dixie Fire came through this area, burning thousands of acres in the park and nearby towns. We came here to hike 1,000 feet straight up the face of a cinder cone. It looks worse than it was, but we climbed up without stopping, and it took less than 15 minutes. It was grueling, but worth it for the otherworldly views you get at the top of Mount Lassen, the painted dunes, and the surrounding lava beds. While floating on Butte Lake below, that evening, we could see to the top of the cinder cone we had just climbed. Our last stop in Northern California was taking a dip in these freezing cold but very Instagrammable waterfalls. It was a very refreshing break on our drive as we continued north. Leaving views of Mount Shasta behind, we crossed into Oregon. Oregon is one of the best states for chasing waterfalls, which is what we did, on foot and by mini jet boat. This is Willamette Falls, the second most powerful waterfall in North America, 40 feet high, 1,500 feet wide, and with a deep history for the natives of Oregon. Then on to our next stop. We arrived to Oregon during a triple-digit heat spell, so the only relief was playing on the water or finding higher ground, which brought us to Mount Hood, and more bearable temps for a hike along the PCT for closer views of this stratovolcano. Our time in Oregon was short as we had work commitments coming up in Idaho. We spent a final night on the Columbia River Gorge. There are tons of easy pull-offs to spend the night right next to the river. We crossed over into the next state where we would be spending the rest of the summer. Idaho. Our first stop in Idaho was Lewiston, set at the confluence of the Snake and Clearwater rivers. We weren't towing this boat around all summer for no reason. We were planning on exploring all the major Idaho rivers, starting here. Idaho is a mini jet boat haven, friendly to motorized river access and with so many rivers to explore. Mostly flat water, with a few shallow sections and channels to play around in, this was the perfect river for our first river run in Idaho. You can find so many white sandy beaches along the rivers in Idaho. Our boat is a 12-foot Jetstream Buccaneer with a 260 Sea-Doo jet ski motor. We have a half-inch thick skid plate on the bottom made of UHMW, an extremely tough plastic. Fire season was starting in Idaho. You could actually see one of the fires from the river. And when we came around one of the river bends, we actually saw the firefighters hosing out water from the river in the heli. It was so crazy to watch, we actually idled there and watched them come in multiple times before heading back at sunset. This marked the beginning of our summer of whitewater and river exploration. Tune in next episode to find out why our first dirt bike ride in Idaho didn't exactly go as planned.
This is a pretty loose definition of a trail, even for Idaho terms. And this is the trail. Can't even find it. There's a cairn, the rock. So we know we're on the trail, but can't tell where it is.
And if you enjoyed episode 1, join us for the rest of the season on Patreon.
We're like 6 inches of water right here. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Just like glass.